What's up, you guys? It's your girl Taylor, and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be reading my personal statement that got me into 5 medical schools. So hopefully this will give you a good idea of kind of how the personal statement works, what my journey to medicine looks like, and so forth. So I do want to start with a little bit of a disclaimer. This personal statement is fully my work. These are my stories and literally why I want to pursue medicine. So obviously, if you copy any of this personal statement, you are putting yourself at risk and you're putting your application at risk. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of go paragraph by paragraph and kind of explain why I chose to put certain things in my personal statement, kind of how I went about it, stuff like that. Okay, so first paragraph. While my friend spent the night of the 7th grade dance tearing up the dance floor to Lady Gaga and Katy Perry, I was trying to keep my friend alive. Adrenaline pulsed through my veins as I received a text from my friend Alan that stated, "I want to die." I texted back in confusion, unable to understand why he felt that way. My confusion quickly grew into terror as he started sharing plans to end his life, and every ding of my phone was accompanied by a fear of that text message being the last I would receive from him. Running to my mom in tears, I realized she also did not know how to help Alan, and my heart raced as I spent the night desperately attempting to offer him the smallest ounce of hope that life the smallest ounce of hope so he would abort his plans. As the sun rose, relief fell over me, knowing he survived the night. Although terrifying, I found joy in helping Alan through his crisis. However, I knew my help was only temporary. Unsure how to offer him long-term support, I turned to the internet to try to understand Alan's feelings. I found myself intrigued by mental health and the brain as a physical organ. I started seeing my life being dedicated to being someone others can confide in when they are surrounded by darkness, and from here, my eyes turned towards a career in medicine. Okay, so one thing you'll notice throughout my personal statement is it is very tied to psychiatry, and that is ultimately the field I wanted to go into, or I do want to go into. I had a lot of hesitation as to whether that would be okay that my application was so heavily tied to a specialty. I didn't want admissions to think that like I'm set on this path and like I haven't explored any other areas of medicine because a lot of people go into med school with a specialty in mind and then they end up changing their mind. But I think that it really helped highlight my passion and my motivation for this field. Yeah, so I started my personal statement with the very first exposure I ever had to mental health at a young age when my friend came to me with suicidal ideation. And that was such a monumental moment for me just as a person. It was the first time I had ever heard of mental health or had heard of suicide. And it also made me realize that a lot of the adults around me didn't know how to handle the situation either. So I ended up really wanting to take on the role as an educator and start learning, okay, what is mental health? What does this mean? And how can I help people who are going through, similar things as this friend? And I ended up having actually several people in my life who've been through various mental health difficulties. Okay, next paragraph. To further explore the field of medicine, I began volunteering as a COVID-19 screener in the oncology department. My biggest challenge I faced as a screener was at the peak of the COVID-19 pandemic. One morning, a woman named Lynn approached my table with her husband, Joe. Lynn was here for an appointment, and I recited my list of screening questions to her. After taking her temperature, I turned to Joe and asked if he would be willing to wait in his car because we only allowed patients into the hospital to reduce the spread of coronavirus. He looked into my eyes and replied sharply, "If my wife is getting bad news, I want to be there with her." Lynn looked at me with sad eyes, and it broke my heart explaining to her husband that he could not accompany her to the appointment due to hospital protocol. Although we were able to find a compromise by letting him be on the phone during her visit, I longed to offer them more support. I wish I could be in that room with Lynn, holding her hand as she received news on how her cancer was progressing. Seeing both the physical and emotional toll cancer had on these patients only solidified my desire to help those in both physical and emotional crises. With a career in medicine, I'd be able to support patients like Lynn in a more significant way, whether it be through healing them from an injury or helping them emotionally cope with the disease and being someone to lean on during difficult times. So for this paragraph, this is when I did kind of start getting that weariness of like, I can't just have psychiatry in my personal statement. So I wanted to throw in an example of me experiencing another field of medicine, but also tie it back to kind of the emotional aspects of medicine, which is something that I really care about being interested in mental health. So, I really wanted to showcase not only like problem solving ability with trying to find a compromise for this patient, but also, really putting an emphasis on the emotional turmoil that patients have to go through. And, medicine is not just treating a physical body, it's also treating your patient like they are human and understanding that they are going to have very complex emotions related to diagnoses and treatment and things like that. So I really wanted to highlight kind of that aspect of me in this paragraph while also showing, hey, I'm not just interested in psychiatry. I can really practice mental health in any field of medicine because medicine is so emotionally driven. Being interested in the mind and body, I conducted psychiatric clinical research after college. My favorite part about this job was conducting structured clinical interviews with inpatients. I remember one patient, Tim, who had been experiencing depression and was admitted to the inpatient unit right before starting college. I interviewed him shortly after he left the hospital, and he realized that he had been depressed for 2 years leading up to this hospitalization, causing a drastic decrease in the quality of his schoolwork and the recent loss of his job. With the stress of starting college in a few weeks and his friends and partner recently moving away, the lack of a close support system led him to a suicide attempt. After being started on an antidepressant, his mood greatly improved, and he had not felt depression since leaving the hospital. It was incredible to see that a physical drug had drastically changed his illness for the better. With this improvement, he reported that he was excited to start college the following semester after taking some time to focus on himself. I loved speaking with Tim for several hours and learning about the numerous challenges he had faced. I want to continue to make deep connections with patients, learning about their stories and how their illnesses impact them. Although his illness delayed his start of college, medicine was able to return Tim to his baseline, putting him back on the path of furthering his education. For people like Tim, the hospital holds the last glimmer of hope that things can improve. Working with inpatients has further revealed a passion for working with people in acute distress. I want to have the skills and knowledge to help reunite people with the things their illness took away, helping them heal and return to a life of normalcy. So for this, I'm drawing on my experience doing psychiatric clinical research, where I would literally sit with patients for like 3 to 4 hours and just go through the whole DSM with them, trying to figure out kind of what they met diagnostic criteria for. And that is a experience that really solidified my desire to pursue psychiatry and to pursue medicine, and really, allowed me to see kind of like the medical side of mental health. Up until this point, I was very much involved with like the therapeutic side of mental health. And I knew a lot of people would question, okay, like, why don't you just go get your PhD and be a clinical psychologist? But I wanted to include something like, no, like, I really care about the medical side of things. Seeing the way medicine can change a patient for the better and fully put them on a new path in life is absolutely incredible. For my conclusion, my experiences have shown me that medicine is more than making diagnoses and providing treatment. Throughout my life's journey, I found a passion for helping people in crisis. As a physician, I look forward to helping people heal, hearing my patients' stories, and connecting with them on a deeper level. I want to give my patients a voice and empower them to live life to the fullest. I'm excited to work on fixing problems and understand the humans underneath them, listening to the hardships my patients have faced and celebrating the victories they experience. Yeah, I really wanted to just wrap up by tying in this theme that, what all these stories have in common is helping people in crisis, whether that's someone who is currently suicidal, someone who has to deal with progressing cancer, or someone, who is experiencing depression for a long time and came in for a suicide attempt. I really like that kind of acute setting of like, this patient needs help right now. What am I going to do to provide that help and kind of stabilize them? Again, to wrap up, I really wanted to put an emphasis on the humanness of medicine and not just the science of it. I'm someone who, especially going into mental health, I'm so excited to like hear my patient stories and like doing that clinical research job and just hearing for hours the different struggles my patients have overcome and like how they've had resiliency. And mental health is something that's not linear. It's very much being in and out of hospitals, trialing treatment until something's right, and seeing that kind of back and forth of, okay, we're improving. Okay, there was a setback, but we're going to keep trying to improve. That's what makes me excited to be a provider in the field of psychiatry. And, I really want to form a long lasting connection with my patients and not just saying like, okay, this is Tim who has depression, but no, this is Tim who is going to college for this degree and he's really passionate about these things and he loves video games and like really understanding the person that I'm treating, not just the illness that I'm treating. So that was my personal statement. I'll give a little bit more information about kind of how I crafted this. So I started writing my personal statement really early. I started in December of the year before I applied. So I was kind of writing this off and on for about 6 months. I probably went through like 20 different drafts, some having these stories, some having other stories. I was just kind of writing really paragraphs of patient stories that really stood out to me and really made me want to, be a clinician, made me interested in the field of medicine. And then I would almost kind of puzzle piece them together to see, okay, kind of what fits well together and what really tells my like cohesive story. Because I felt like the beginning experience of being like a sixth grader introduced to mental health was something that was so important to put in. And then seeing me kind of grow as like, okay, like at this young age, I didn't know what mental health was, but I'm going to try to help my friend to, okay, I'm now in the field of psychiatry. I understand what this is, and I want to dedicate my life to this field. So that is my personal statement. If anyone has any questions or wants to understand why I wrote about something the way I did, feel free to leave those in the comments below. And then I also just want to say, in general, I love creative writing. I think it's fun. So like starting my personal statement with like this very intense statement of like, my friends were dancing at the seventh grade dance. I was trying to keep my friend alive. Like I love stuff like that. And I actually did get several comments on how like captivating my personal statement was and how it showed my progression of like understanding I want to do medicine very well. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to kind of join me on my medical journey, and I'll be posting more videos all about my application process. If you haven't already seen it, I will link above my kind of overview of my whole application, and then more videos will come of me kind of breaking down each section. Until next time, peace.